Greetings, chess fans. My name is Arturs Neiksans. I'm the leading Latvian chess grandmaster, and as it happens, already 5-time Latvian champion. And this is the second part of my Latvian Championships recap that I played earlier this week, not only securing my 5th title here in Latvia, but also a spot in the FIDE World Cup. So in the very first video, I talked about my best game I played not only in the tournament, but probably also my entire career. But in the second part, or this video, I'm going to talk about how it was to play against the other members of the Latvian national team. Because, once again, how did we get the chance to fight for a chance to qualify for the FIDE World Cup? We played really well, the Latvian national team, in the Budapest World Chess Olympiad last year, and thus we were awarded with one spot to the FIDE World Cup. But we would have to determine ourselves how we are going to go there, and most importantly, who is going to go there. In the end, we decided that democracy should prevail, and we would fight it out in the Latvian Championship. And that's why the games between the other members of the national team would be of utmost importance. So I'm going to show you 3 games, maybe in the contrary to the typical very in-depth explanation of every single move of every single game. This is going to be a bit faster pace of the game analysis since I have to show 3 games. One of them is pretty lengthy. I'm going to simply focus on the most important moments. So this was round number 3. I was playing with the white color, with black was playing Ilmars Starostits. He's a very creative player. Also in the Olympiad, he played really well. I don't remember his score, but possibly he might have had the best result in the team. I think it was either that or the second best result. So I would expect that this is going to be a game I have to be very careful. So I played knight f3, and Ilmars played g6. I was rather surprised that somebody can play the modern defense in such a high-stakes game, but I suppose it's a system you can play. I very quickly grabbed the center, played knight c3, knight f6, and here I decided to opt for a simple development of bishop e2 because I was not entirely sure, can I play bishop c4? I had a vague memory that black can sacrifice the knight on e4 to play d5 and immediately try to equalize the game. And I knew this trick of taking on e4, black makes a short castle with rook f8 and king g8. And I had a memory here that h4 gives white an advantage, king g8, h5, queen e8. But what were the lines, I obviously could not remember. So that's why I decided not to do that. I just played simple development. Castles, castles. Ilmars was playing very quickly. He played knight c6, threatening to play e5. And I thought if I want to do something, I gotta play d5. d5, knight e5, and here, the first decision, I decided not to take on e5, because if I do, he's gonna take it and possibly play e6 and simply undouble his pawns. And if I stop it, black has a very interesting way to play knight e8, knight e6, and f5. And who knows what is this actually, because black treats this position as some sort of a king's Indian defense, like a 4, g5, h5, g4, etc. So I had a pretty good feeling that if I would go here, Ilmars would take the game exactly in this direction. So that's why I just played knight e4. And I expected that c6 probably is the necessary move, and whatever I do, let's say I play something like h3, he takes it, and now we play some sort of a dragon, where white probably has a small pressure because of the weak pawn on e7. Think about rook e1, f4, stuff like that. But Ilmars played very quickly c5, which I felt is a mistake. Now the point is that after knight b3, black gets pretty cramped. Played a6, wants to play b5, I stop him. The problem is that he cannot easily play e6 because after f4, knight e7, d takes on e6, he would drop the pawn on d6. So he cannot really do that. Also, I want to play a5 and fix a weakness on b6, so he had to go here. I played bishop g5. I was quite proud of the move because I thought in this position he might want to play knight e8, knight c7, rook b8 and b5, which I know to be a typical idea from the modern Benoni, but that's why I felt I have to do something to talk him out of this. And I included bishop g5. And now the point is, after this knight e8, there's already immediate pressure against the pawn on e7, so I could play something like f4, f5, or f4, e5, knight e4, some typical anti-modern Benoni ideas, and basically see what happens. But the second idea was after bishop g5, I provoke him to play h6, and I can use the pawn on h6 as a hook, as a target. And I fully expected that he should probably play something like g5, try to keep the knight on e5, but after f4 and bishop f4, his king always will be exposed, and I felt that that's exactly the type of game I want to get. Like, I want to play stuff like queen on h4, maybe queen g3, bring the knight to f3, bring the other knight perhaps, knight e1, knight e3, knight e5, and simply go after the king. And also having this king exposed, most likely black doesn't have the chance to play knight e8, knight e7 anymore. And probably this possibility of having an exposed king worked in the decision that Ilmars decided not to play g5. But he played a couple of weird moves, like queen c7, the move I could not really explain because I felt that the knight belongs on c7 if he wants to play b5. I played h3 to take over the g4 square. He played king h7, 4, knight e7. And this is something, by the way, I'm very often teaching to my students. When you don't know what to do, always find your worst placed piece and improve it. So that's what I did. I mean, the knight on b3 appears not to doing anything, so I play knight e2, which, by the way, also deals with the move e6. Because after e6, which happened in the game, I get to play knight c4, and the pawn on d6 is immediately hammered. Now here, after e takes on d5, I think that Ilmars from afar missed knight takes on d5. Now the pawn on d6 becomes a pretty big weakness. He cannot take it. He's just going to drop the pawn without any compensation. So after a longer thought, Ilmars played queen b8, trying to sell the pawn here, and I just played for activity. Bishop f3, wanting to play e5, threatening to take on f6, win the pawn on d6, and now Ilmars just had to play this very sad move, knight e8. Now, when I saw this position, I was absolutely confident that if somebody like an engine would evaluate this position, there's definitely huge advantage. Most likely strategically winning for white. Why is this? Because I'm simply dominating the board. However, I was struggling to find a clean continuation. So actually engine here gives some ridiculous lines like rook b1 or c3. This is also what I considered, or queen d2. But I was looking for ways to force things. So I played knight e7. My idea was to kill the bishop, threaten the pawn, and also threaten to play e5. I was quite happy of the move. He played bishop b7. Now I play e5. You see the pawn here is pinned. The knight on d7 is undefended. This is a forcing line. b5. I expected that black has to seek the counterplay. Takes. The rook probably has to be traded. And I played knight x on d6. So black simply lost the pawn without any compensation, but at least he gets some breathing air. He played rook d8. Actually, after the game, Ilmars said he already thought his position is pretty hopeless, and that's why he thought at least he found some practical chances. Now, in this position, I'm thinking, wait a second, what about knight c6 here? I can hit the rook and the knight on d7 is going to fall, and with it also the pawn on f7. But of course, I immediately spot that after knight c6, there's going to be knight e5, knight f3, and maybe there's a chance for a perpetual check. So I spent quite some time calculating the lines, and I wanted to play move initially queen c7, threatened to play knight c6, also stopping queen a1. There's going to be rook f1, and the rook on d8 remains hanging. But what I could not figure out, if I go for an attack with a 5, like f6 is a big threat, what is this position? Can I go here? Suddenly I have pretty badly coordinated pieces. f6 is knight e6, my queen is hit. If I take on b5, he takes on e7. Maybe, by the way, wait, if I take on b5, there's rook d1 check, what I'm talking about. I'm just dropping the queen. So I felt that also there's bishop f8, and suddenly my position is not so clear. I was looking for ways to simplify the position, and actually Engine's best continuation, queen c6, I simply did not see. So the point is, black probably cannot give a check. I go here, and now we renew the same idea of queen c7, which is very easy. But again, I physically did not see queen c6 at all. And basically here after queen c6, black has nothing better than to trade the queens and go for a pretty hopeless position like this. I play rook b1, and black doesn't have any active move because these pieces are pretty sad. So it didn't happen. I spent some time, about 20-25 minutes or so, and I decided to simplify matters, play knight c6. I saw he can take on e5. I took on d8. He can take on f3. I take it. And after queen f3, since my bishop is under attack, the pawn on h3 is under attack, and he's threatening all kinds of perpetuals, I decided to play bishop f2. And I did see that he has the move bishop d4. Cutting off the queen on d6 from the protection of the white queen, I saw I can take it. He gives a check. I go here. I saw that he can take on d4. I play queen e7. I defend against the check on e2. I try to take on f7 with the check. And I saw this line that I play king h4, and I'm presumably winning. But there lies the problem with my calculation. I stopped calculating the move one move early. And if I had seen he can play queen f5, he's threatening to win a pawn on f4, and unfortunately I cannot take the pawn on f7. His d-pawn cannot be stopped. Now look at this. Takes, here, d3. I cannot catch it. Now d5, d2, and I'm losing. So the point is, if he had found queen f5, I would have nothing better than to go back, king g3, allowing black to force perpetual check. I did not see this, but the best part is, neither did he. So he took on the pawn on b2. Now I took the pawn on f7. I was double checking, can he play bishop d4 now? And now this does not work. So again, he played bishop d4. He gave a check. He played c6 on d4. But the major difference is now the pawn on f7 is gone. And black's idea of queen c2, king g3, queen d3, king h4, queen f5 simply is met with a killing attack. Major difference. He played, after a longer thing, the final move king g8, allowing me to deliver a very cute mate. If you want to find it, you can stop the video here. Why to deliver a forcing mate. Pretty nice pattern to know. I took it, I gave a check, and here Starostits realized he missed the mate. King h7, queen g8, queen h8 is a nice checkmate on the board, and he resigned. So I was very, very happy about this. I mean, after queen f8, he just resigned right here. Very happy about the game and quite disappointed when I went at home and I realized I actually had missed the victory. But that's what it is. And I had a feeling, at least, I'm getting lucky in this tournament, because I think you not only need to play good, you also need to be lucky in the critical moments. All right, let's go to the next game. The next game I played against Nikita Meshkovs, the Latvian second best grandmaster, at least according to the ELO rating. I'm number 1, he's number 2. And obviously I know Nikita for many years. I coached him when he was when he was going to the Riga chess school, him and Tom Kantans. And we've had definitely a long history of many games. But also in the past couple of classical games, I had beaten him. And just recently also in the Swedish league. But the backstory also of this game is that I did not have any time to prepare, because this was the second round, the second game of the day. the previous game I had just beat Ilmars Starostits. Now I'm playing another grandmaster, another member of the national team. So this day of the utmost importance. And there was one game that was being played on and on and on. And the pairings were delayed until the very last moment. So essentially, I had no chance to prepare against Nikita or Toms because we had not both of us, but three of us, we had 3 points each. And I didn't know what the system is going to say. Is it going to say it's Meshkovs or is it Kantans? So what I did, I prepared against both. And to be honest, now in the hindsight, I'm thinking this is probably quite irresponsible. I should have prepared against them before the tournament, but I was so busy with my chessable course and other stuff. I just simply did not have the time. And already at some point, I decided I will prepare for the games. So basically, again, we didn't have any time for the prep. I took my laptop with me in the car. And while I was driving to the playing venue, I got the pairings. I saw I'm playing against Nikita. And I basically repeated stuff in my car with a laptop. So I was very quickly checking what he's playing. Then obviously I put it in the trunk. And this is how it went. So I prepped against him either d4, knight f3, and he plays c4. I was like, okay, what a wasted opportunity to prepare something. I had a feeling he's trying to lure me in some c4, e5, g3, because this is, I believe, what I recently played against one of the players in Tartu the weekend before the Rapid and Blitz tournament. So I decided to slightly change the move order, play knight f6, because I invite him to go for his main continuation with d4, and if he plays g3, I can choose another system. So that was the idea. Now, after a couple of minutes, he played here, and now I played e5. This essentially is my very first chessable course. Lifetime Repertoire's Reverse Sicilian. Very popular stuff. He played knight f3, he played one of the main lines, e3, bishop e4. I know this stuff because I played from time to time. Queen c2, bishop c3, and here came the very first surprise. I was absolutely sure that Nikita is going to play b takes on c3. Why? Because it simply suits his playing style. He likes those ninja positions, and I think it's very characteristic to his playing style, like d6, e4, d3, stuff like g3, two bishops, center, even though they're doubled, I need to know what I'm doing, etc. And I was already trying to recall what I'm supposed to do there, because I wrote this stuff about 4 years ago. So I do not remember every single detail. And I definitely didn't prepare this. But he took with a queen. Now after queen e7, the main move is d4. White gets the bishop there, but black's position is pretty easy to play. Now he played b3. And I'm thinking, wait. This is in the course. But I remember there was something wrong with this. There was something not right. Because white was not supposed easily get to play bishop b2, attack the pawn, play d4, and get his two bishops without any trouble. So I was pretty sure. The first move is d5. And he cannot really take on d5 because this is a reversed Scheveningen Sicilian position where white's queen on c3 is losing tempo. I'm just having a fantastic position, and e4, by the way, is a very big threat. So I remembered he has to play d4. And I'm thinking, wait, something why doesn't ring a bell? Because if I take on d4, I take on d4, and I play c5. This is not a line that I remember. And after the game, I would talk with Nikita. He said to me, this is still one of the main lines, and apparently black can play some crazy g5. What? g5? What on earth is that even? There's some crazy tactics, rook g8, whatever. I did not know this line. So I'm thinking, yeah, he probably wants to get the position without too much risk, two bishops, and if it's going to be a draw, then it's going to be a draw. So after d4, I'm thinking, so what did I recommend in the course? And I spent here about 10 minutes or so, and I remembered. I remembered that there was this one move that was also a novelty. For example, if white would play not b3, if white would play bishop e2. after bishop e2, d5, d4, there was this one move I really wanted to make it work. Which is, so I'm going to put you here, b3, d5, d4, bishop g4. And I suddenly got a very big thrill, because if he doesn't know this, it suddenly gets very dangerous. And now I realize the most crucial of the first minutes, because they're going to give me information. He either knows this or he doesn't. And the clock was ticking, he was thinking, and I realized it's possible I'm scoring a jackpot here, because if he doesn't know this, it's quite difficult for him to play. So I'm going to show you a couple of lines. Where lies the danger? If white takes on e5 with the knight, obvious choice, obviously. The pawn is under attack, why don't you take it? I take it, I play knight e4. What do you go with the queen? Because queen d4 is suddenly c5. Queen d5 is suddenly rook d8. How do you deal with rook d1? You can't. And if you have to go away, then you drop the pawn on e5 for everything in the way. It's bad. Okay, what if he plays queen c2? I play a long castle. Obviously, he cannot take on d5. That's the same problem. Rook d1, queen b4, by the way, massive threat. And if he tries to fork me, this I remembered. I have not queen h4. Because queen h4, g3, knight g3 is queen f2. And white is maybe even winning. But the point is, I take on f3 first. And I remember there was one game by Yevgeny Nair. I even remember the name. The point is, after g takes, queen h4 check. King d1 is the fork on f2. King e2 is queen f2. Queen f3, and the white's position just collapses. So I remembered all of this stuff. But I couldn't remember what he is supposed to do. Because what is the next move then? And apparently, after the game, Normans Mises came and said, the engine says it's c5. And then it immediately dawned upon me, right. It was c5, queen e5, bishop e2, and d4. So he cannot take with the bishop. I'm just going to sacrifice it and simply annihilate white. The rook on a1 is under attack. The attack is killing. There's some very fancy lines like he takes with a pawn. I play queen f4. This is a threat. And after bishop c1, threatening to play bishop e3, I play knight e2. With the idea to play rook e8, and again, black is just killing. So I could not recall this, obviously, during the game, but when Normans after the game told me this, I immediately recalled all of this. Bishop d3 is killing with knight f2. Not sure I would have remembered that. And white has to remember it's bishop c4, rook e8, and should castle. Very difficult moves. And if I'm not in the mood, I just play bishop f3. Like a nice, cool cucumber. Threatening to play queen g5, I give a check. I go queen h5. This is a big threat. He could have played bishop e2. And it ends with a perpetual check. So he would have to find all of this just to secure a draw. That's why b3 is a very dangerous practical move for white to make. He spent about 20 minutes. He did not find it. He played d takes on e5 instead. And during the game, I could not remember, was this the main move or he was supposed to play knight e5? To me, it seemed like this is a normal move. So again, I play knight e4, and he has to go queen b2. Because if he plays queen c2, there's knight b4, followed by bishop f5, and there's some very big problems with those light squares. Like knight g3 stuff is threatening. What do you do? So he played queen b2. I played the long castle. And again, taking on d5 feels very dangerous. There's going to be queen b4, there's rook d8, etc. So he played normal move. And I spent here again some time trying to recall what's the continuation. And I kind of remember that one of the big ideas, if I take on f3, and he plays g takes on f3, is knight c5. Threatening to play d4, knight e5, etc. And the key idea is after b4, I have knight b4. Now that's what I remembered. But I wasn't sure, is this the position when to play this? Or was it something very similar? Because again, I've wrote this stuff 4 years ago. So I'm trying to remember an exam I took 4 years ago. And I don't repeat it on a daily basis. And I thought that bishop f3, knight e5 probably was the safer choice. But still, I mean, black is attacking. So he decided to play g takes on f3. I played knight c5. And as it later would happen, this was the continuation. He played f4, he tries to hold on to the pawn. I play d takes on c4, and knight e3 is a massive threat. So if he takes it, I give a check, I take it, and the king is terminally weak. Go. Like castles, rook d8, I play queen e6, and what do? I have a huge initiative here. I'm down a pawn, but look at my control of the light squares. And if I'm not really in the mood, I can always just go for some truffled repetition. Queen g6, queen e4, queen g6, queen e4, because I highly doubt he can play f3 and further weaken his position. At the time, I did not really realize how great is my position, so I just thought I have a compensation. And after some thought, he played a mistake. He played a short castle, which kind of makes sense. He's trying to sell the pawn back, which is a very popular GM strategy. Like if I take on b3, he opens up the queen side, etc. He's trying to hide the king on h1. But unfortunately for white, I immediately spotted the right idea. I mean, his king is exposed. What should you do? Open the position. So I play like g5. It came very naturally. And about here, I had a feeling I'm going to win a game. Like, it just feels so straightforward. Or the moves are coming so naturally to me. And at this moment, Nikita just collapsed. Like, it's already very difficult to make the correct choice. And he tried to change the pace. He played queen c2, getting the queen on the 5. For me, it's very easy to take it, because if he takes with the pawn, I get knight e4. He gave a check here. Now the pawn is seemingly dropping. Rook g8 is incoming. What do you do? Like, it's very difficult to make a move. So he played bishop a3, pinning my knight. And after some thought, I just took on e3. So the point is, e6 simply does not work. I play knight e4, hit the queen, hit the bishop on e2, and after a couple of forcing moves, he's just down 2 pawns. Just like that. I started the gambit down a pawn, and I'm up 2 pawns. So what happened is that he took on e3. I play knight e5. And just a very easy move, protecting everything, collecting a pawn. And after queen f6, this is basically the white flag. The queen f6 allows me to finish the game immediately. Rook g8 check, he's gonna go to f2. I take on f6, I just play rook d2. And now the point is, after rook d2, he doesn't have any move, because knight e4 is incoming. If he takes it, I take it. This is incoming, this is threat, king is weak. So he resigned. 21 moves. I never, ever would have expected this. That against the most fierce competitor, my direct competitor with a black color, I'm going to win in 21 moves with black. So this was a major, major surprise to me. But again, I don't think it really reflects, obviously, the strength of us, because Nikita is much, much better player than this. I was just very lucky. I was very lucky that he played into my prep and that he did not know the move bishop g4. So this allowed me to score a very important victory, beating a second grandmaster of national team in the same day, and also cement my lead in the tournament with 4 points out of 4. And around this point, I had a feeling I can do it. You know, before the tournament, I was not entirely sure. Can I do this? Can I win the tournament? Because it really depends who has the best shape on that particular day. But after this one, I had a very good feeling I have all the chances. But it would be the next game that would decide everything and set the tone for the final part of the tournament, because I still have to play one more direct opponent, which is Tom Kantans. We played this game the very next day in the evening. We both had 4 points out of 4, and I knew this is the World Cup decider, the championship decider. So I spent the entire morning, about 3 hours, maybe more. I was trying to rip apart his entire repertoire from the Lux perspective. I think I found some holes, but I think they're already fixed, to be honest, right? So I was trying to break them, and I was heavily prepping. I had a couple of scenarios where the game might take us, and one of them worked. So I played English opening. You know, actually, what's quite funny with the English opening is that not only Nikita played against me in the previous round, but for me, for some reason, it just doesn't score. I don't understand why. I get good positions, but the results are better with either e4 or knight f3. It's a real mystery. So he played c5, one of the scenarios I predicted. d4, knight e4, e6. Now this move order surprised me because I thought he's going to play knight f6 first. So I spent here a bit regretting that I did not check e6 move order more closely. But then we just transpose. What I wanted, I played a3, the old system, stopping any bishop e4 ideas. And actually, this is something we already had played before in Latvian team championships, maybe 10 years ago or so, maybe less. He played bishop e7, I play e4, I get my Marazzi bind, and since black is threatened to play d5, now I go back. Before the show castle, black could not play d5, now he's threatened to play d5. He set up the hedgehog, I put up the position that I want. All of this was like in my prep. And now the point is he cannot easily carry out d5 push, like I'd looked at knight a5 and some d5 stuff. But even if he does this, it's all about the piece placement. Like I can take it, I play e5, the knight on f6 doesn't really have anywhere good to go. And after knight e4, there's always this queen a4, followed by rook d1, rook c1, the pawn on e4 is hit, and black is simply in trouble. So what happened is he set up the hedgehog, d6, without the pawn on a6. I played rook c1. He played a clever move, knight e5. And about here I realized, wait, I don't have anything. Even though this was the position I prepped, maybe with the pawn on a6. And I'm thinking if I'm taking on e5, I'm taking, he plays knight e4. How on earth am I going to win this? Like I could try to play queen a4, attack the pawn, play rook d1. And this is also what Tom said after the game. But there's one problem. He gets to play bishop c5. And suddenly there is a massive queen g5. I got the impression Tom's did not see this move. But I'm pretty sure he would find it in the game. So I cannot go here. And instead I play knight e2. And I fully expect that he's going to play knight g6. If I go bishop g3, I was very unhappy because this is like a pretty weird version of the hedgehog. Where I'm supposed to have the knight on d4, the bishop on e3. This is like the perfect hedgehog. What is this? This is not great. So I was thinking, okay, I'm probably going to go bishop e3 instead, allowing him to play d5. And after takes, I thought I can still try to play queen a4, go after his weaknesses. He plays bishop c6, I play bishop b5, and I thought I kept some pressure. To be honest, I simply missed queen d7. I didn't see this move. So I cannot take on a7 because the knight on b5 is pinned. I didn't see this. And probably I would have to go for something peaceful. But Tom's play knight e7 instead. He didn't play knight g6, and I was quite surprised and also relieved at the same time. I play b4, and now came g5. Now that's a pretty cool move. And it also shows that Thomas is going to fight until the very end. And you know, after the game, Thomas told me, I had told myself, him this idea, that sometimes in the hedgehog, you can play g5, king h8, rook g8, and attack at the king side. You have to be careful what you're telling to people because they might use it against you. So I played bishop e3, but I was not unhappy. I was pretty happy about this because this also means that black is risking. He played king h8. I played bishop d4. Now this is what I would remember from the white's perspective, that you're supposed to play like this. You have to trade one pair of knights. But here's the catch. I knew this with the pawn on a6. Because if I trade one pair of knights, the pawn on b6 becomes really weak. But I was not sure what happens with the pawn on a7. So he played here. I played knight f3. Yeah, by the way, Ancient says something like rook e1 and queen a4. Some crazy queen d7, queen a7 ideas. And I think queen f8 is very human because black wants to go like queen h6 and g4 and knight f3, bishop g5, stuff like that. It's very nice. It's very interesting. I once won a very nice game from the black's perspective in exactly this line. But I was following according to the plan. I played knight f3. He played g4. I took on e5. He has to take with the pawn, otherwise the pawn on g4 is dropping. I played here. And I initially thought, if he plays f5, I play g3, and I'm happy. Like, I saw him dropping the pawn on e4, but I have a very nice position, and I was like totally chilling here. Guess what? I came home, I switch on the computer. Do you know what the computer says? Well, I can play f4. She's like, what? Wait, what? I just take the pawn. And there's a... I can't even describe this move. What? What? Like, what even is the idea? But the idea is to play queen h4, apparently. Opening up the queen, some g3 stuff. And if I take it, there's bishop g7 and black is fully taking over the initiative. Crazy. It's very, very difficult sequence. I never even would dream of this idea. And Tom's also probably didn't see this. Instead, he played knight f6, which is a mistake according to an engine. I play queen a4, try to target the pawn, give up this pawn, play rook d1. Black played here, I played rook d1. And I only expected queen c7. And after the game, Tom said this was his alternative with the idea to meet queen b5 with bishop c6. So if I take on d6 twice, he collects the pawn on b4, and we basically get exactly what happened in the game. But apparently both of us miscalculated. And now you can judge yourself how human is this line. I take with the bishop. So if he takes with a queen, if my queen, I take his, and I'm winning something, right? This is easy. So he goes here, I take on a5. He goes here. Wait, am I not dropping the piece? Yeah, you are. But the engine likes this line anyway, because there's b5, and the bishop has to guard a d7 square, otherwise there's going to be rook d7, and the bishop d7 falls, the knight at f6 falls, and everything is bad. So what about bishop e8? There's c5. And now there's knight e5. I was like, okay. When I saw all of this, like, this is not me. I don't play like this. And I'm not that good calculator, apparently. But anyway, Tom's play queen e8. And here again, there's some crazy stuff. The engine says you have to play queen b3. Why? Because what about the pawn on e4? Like knight e4, bishop e4. And obviously I see that after bishop b6, he can take on g2. There's the queen c6 threat. And my king is weak. Of course I cannot play that, right? So the Silicon B says, first you include queen c3. Hit a pawn on e5. Okay. Black plays f6. Now you take on b6. Okay, I understand it. And after queen c6, c5, bishop g2, b5, engine says, really? Like this position, is it like anything clear? My king is exposed. I might get checkmated there. So this was the best actually I could have done. I was not even looking in this direction. So instead I decide to take on e8. I take on b6. I try to normalize the position and play f3. And I thought I have some chances. Because, for example, here, if he plays bishop c5, tries to block my pawn, I simply have an outside pass pawn. Like I could play knight b5, knight e6, put the king on e3, activate the rooks, and I have the pass pawn. Maybe instead of this knight a4, c5, bishop b5, and I'm playing for the win. But what I did not evaluate properly is the dynamic opportunities for black. He gives a check, and I played king f2 without thinking because I thought I'm so smart. Like if he takes on c3 and plays bishop e4, I saw this line. I cannot take it as a fork. I play rook e3. And I thought if he plays bishop c2, rook d2, and bishop a4, rook e5, knight e7, that's a fork. I can play bishop d4. And because of his unfortunate placement of the king, even though he has rook g7, I'm still pushing because I have an outside pass pawn. But the problem is all of this is not forced. And black instead can play rook g6, threatening to play rook h6. And now I have difficulties to make the next move. So I decided to play knight b5, threatened to play knight e6 and c5, looks perfectly logical. And after rook h6, there's suddenly some crazy lines, like the pawn on h2 is under attack and I don't need his pawn. But how should I play? The problem is, if I play knight e6, He can take it and play bishop e4. Now this works. I saw this. Okay, what else is here? Now, if I play king e3, give up the pawn on h2 so that then I can play knight e6. Pretty smart, right? Instantly play rook h3. And there's some knight g4 stuff. And knight e4 stuff. What is this even? So I'm like, okay, wait, I don't understand this. Okay, what about c5? Try to block the bishop and try to play knight e6. He can take it, sack the exchange, and play bishop a6. How do I protect the knight on b5? And apparently here the engine says I can still play rook d8. Bishop b5, and after king d1, because of the rook b1 or the c6 threat, the game ends with a draw. Nice and easy draw. I did not see this. So instead I went for the knight e6 anyway. By the way, the engine says the best move here is h3. What? h3. Basically the same idea as with king e3. But the point is, now you play knight e6, and you take with the rook. There's bishop e4, I think I'm just winning a piece with rook d8 and bishop d8. The knight on f6 is under attack, the bishop on e4 is under attack. Okay, I get that. Rook h2 check, king e3, knight h5, and this position somehow is about level. But I would play this totally. If I had seen h3, it's a very difficult move. So I play knight e6 instead. And now he played bishop e4. I realized I have to trade the rook so that my c-pawn becomes stronger. Bishop c6, he has to retreat. And I'm already trying to survive. So I was hoping that my two bishops and outside pass pawn is going to be enough to compensate the missing pawn, but I was not sure. And I wanted to play as quickly as possible rook a1, rook a6, harass the bishop, and push c-pawn forward. The pawn on h2 doesn't matter. He played king g7, I played as I wanted. Rook a1, rook h2, by the way, would be a big blunder. Rook g1, and he drops the knight. He played e4, and I already was getting low on time. So I decided to bail out. Rook g6, everything just trades, and even though he's slightly better, he cannot make progress, because this is a fortress. I just stand and do nothing, and with one weakness on e4, it's not enough. And instead he played here. I took on f6, he has to take it. I took on e4, he played rook h6, he's still pushing. Because he has simply more active pieces. And now he played a very poisonous idea of rook h4 and rook h3, which is very unpleasant in the time scramble. So the point is I have major difficulties to make the next move, because f5 is a very big threat. And I know for sure I cannot play passive. I should play active. But how do I play active? I cannot walk away from the pin. There's e5. And king g4 is what we call it, a helpmate. You can choose actually h6 or f6, whatever suits you best. So I cannot do that. Actually, yeah, rook f3, by the way, just a move as well, but checkmate in 1 is a bit fancier. So instead I decide to be active, play rook g3, and sacrifice a pawn. Go for activity, like perfect textbook defense. And during the game, I was absolutely sure you cannot trade bishops. Because if you do, the chance for white to make a draw dramatically increase, because rook games, they're notorious of their drawing reputation. And I think if Tom was a bit trickier, he would have avoided that. He would have played like bishop a4. I wanted to play something like rook g5, rook h5, trade off the rooks, and then escape with the bishop endgame. He would go here and here. And this is the best actually he can do. And we get something very similar to the game, but he still has the extra pawn, but there's bishops on the board. And this means he can play it forever. And in the worst case, he probably can get rook and bishop versus rook, which is still a draw, but I would have to fight for it. And I was quite relieved that he took with the bishop. And now I was able to find the textbook basically defense, which maybe is quite easy. Activate my rook, push forward the c-pawn, try to trade as many pawns as I can. This was final accurate move. The king d7 cannot go because the pawn on f7 is weak. And now rook h1. He doesn't get to take the pawn on e5 because I'm promoting. He did find one trick though. He played king d7, I played f5. Which is very smart because I cannot take on f6 and passant. My rook is hanging. And now to rook h7, king c8, he's about to collect one of the pawns. But I was not really worried because with such a disconnected king, I don't risk to lose. And I play king d4. The rook has to guard the pawn. And if he plays here, he has problems to defend the pawn here, 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 here. He cannot make progress. And if he plays like this, I can just take it and this pawn is going to fall. Like, he cannot protect it. The king is too far. And he tried rook e2. I activated the king. He tried to make some tricks, but ultimately I'm simply too active. And there was the try to play f4. I could have gone here. And after the check, I just go here. That's it. Again, it's just a draw. I'm killing the pawn at f4. And the game finished like this. And we just traded pieces. And without a draw for we shook hands because it's just a bare kings on the board. So it was very, very tough game. I was relieved that I made it. And I had a feeling he's outplaying me in the second half of the game. I didn't realize where did I misplay it. I felt I played a good game. And Thomas was still pushing. So I was happy. So after 5 rounds, there were still 2 leaders. 2 of us, 4.5 out of 5, with 4 more remaining games to go. And with this, I'm going to conclude the second part of my Latvian Championship recap. There's going to be another part. I decided to call it the photo finish to reach the World Cup. As you already know, I did it, but the emotions, the critical moments, and the craziness that was happening, it deserves a special separate video. So that's going to be published in part number 3, I believe, on Sunday. In the meantime, this second part is done. And if you liked it, I would really appreciate you would click on the like button. And if you're not yet a sub, please subscribe to my channel, as it's going to allow me to grow as a content creator. Thank you for watching, and now get out of here.